We started this July day by driving north from Augusta, Montana, where we were staying, to the small town of Bynum. For this hike, it would have been closer to stay somewhere else, such as Shoto, but we had some other locations we wanted to visit along the Rocky Mountain front this weekend that were closer to Augusta, so we decided to just stay there. As you can tell, the start of the day was pretty cool and rainy. The forecast said it was supposed to clear up as the morning went on, so we took a chance and decided to go anyway. You can never really predict the weather in the mountains though, so you should always come prepared for just about anything. It can be a little tricky to find the trailhead for Muddy Creek Falls if you don't know where you are going. Stick around to the end of this video and I will try to give you detailed instructions for how to get to this location. Please check in the description of this video as well, and I will have a link to my blog post from our hike, and it will have detailed instructions for getting there as well, and also some more photography and information about the area. The hike starts from a parking area, and for the first bit it follows an old road bed from oil and gas exploration that happened in this area. You can still see the remnants of this activity along the trail. This area is also part of the Old North Trail the Native Americans used as they traveled north and south along the Rocky Mountain front from Canada all the way down into Mexico. The hike to the falls is about 5 miles round trip. There's not a lot of elevation gain on this hike, but there are some areas with boulders and rocky areas that you need to navigate, and depending on the conditions, some creek crossings may be required as well. We saw a lot of wildflowers along the way. We also saw a lot of bird species and even a mountain lion. Bears, including grizzly bears, are also known to frequent this area, so I'd make sure you carry your bear spray or some kind of bear defense when hiking in this area. There are also moose in this area that could become dangerous if they felt threatened. We saw signs of moose on our hike, but we never actually saw one. Several years ago, this trail was shut down for the majority of the summer because there was a dead moose on the trail that was attracting bears. As you can tell, once we got maybe a mile or so into our hike, the clouds cleared out and it turned into a pretty nice day. The weather changes fast in the mountains. The trail can sometimes be hard to follow. There are areas that have been washed out and or covered in gravel from the spring flooding that happens in this area. When in doubt, we would just follow the creek bed when we lost the trail. You really can't get lost as long as you keep following the creek up the valley. For a lot of the hike, the creek is dry, but as you get closer to the canyon, you eventually start to see water flowing. So don't panic if you don't see water on the way up. There will be some by the time you get to the falls. Eventually you enter a tight canyon. The falls is at the end of the canyon. The canyon walls are quite high and rather imposing. It reminded me of something you might find down in Utah. If the area is expecting heavy rain, it would probably not be the best idea to attempt this hike. After hiking up the canyon for a while, you come around a corner and you get your first glimpse of the falls up ahead of you. In this shot, if you can see the little black dot moving in the center of the frame, that is my sister hiking ahead of me, just for some perspective on how high the cliffs are. were surprised at how much water was in the pool below the falls. It was probably 3 or 4 feet deep at the deepest point. I have seen other photos of the falls that did not have this much water. I'm sure it varies a lot depending on the time of year and the conditions when you visit. The sun was really harsh when we first reached the falls, so I was having a difficult time trying to get any photographs. But as the clouds would pass overhead and the light would even out a little bit, you could get some better views. I like the large rock wedged between the cliff walls above the falls too. We spent about an hour wading into the pool, taking pictures, and having some lunch. This American Dipper was catching its lunch at the base of the falls too. It was then time to start the hike back. We had not seen anyone else all day until we were probably halfway back to the trailhead, and then we passed a small group of people heading up. If you're looking for a hike away from the crowds, this would probably be a good choice. Of course, I had to take one last look at the falls behind me before it went out of view. On the way back, we spotted a pika running around in the rocks. I have seen pika before on other hikes, but I was never able to get any close-up photos of one. It was very busy running around between the rocks, so it never sat still long enough to get the kind of photos I wanted, but I was still happy to see it. Once we got back to the trailhead, we drove back through Shoto, stopping to have an ice cream cone at the local museum. It was then back to Augusta, where we enjoyed a sunset over the Rocky Mountain front. As promised, here's a description for how to find Muddy Creek Falls trailhead. I am assuming for almost everyone starting in Bynum, Montana is your best bet. Bynum can be found north of Choteau on Highway 89 or south of Browning if you are coming from the north. Once you reach Bynum, take Central Avenue to the west, or you can take any of the other avenues in town as they will all intersect 3rd Street as well. If you are on Central, you will see a white schoolhouse and you will want to turn right in front of the schoolhouse. This is 3rd Street. You will continue through town and the road will eventually make a left in front of the creek and turn into Blackleaf Road. You will stay on this road for about 14 miles. The road does take some turns, but as long as you stay on the road that says Blackleaf, you will be okay. You can also follow the signs that say Blackleaf Wildlife Management Area, as there are some along the way. Eventually, you'll come to a series of signs letting you know that you're about to enter the Blackleaf Wildlife Management Area. Do not go through these signs. Take the road that goes to the left instead. If you go through the Blackleaf entrance, you will eventually end up at Blackleaf Canyon and not Muddy Creek. Take this left-hand road for a little over a mile, and then you will go over a cattle guard. Take the road to the right immediately after you cross the cattle guard. If you keep going straight, you will end up at a farmhouse. Stay on this road for about a half a mile, and then you will see the main road turns to the left, but you want to take the less used road that continues to go straight. After about a quarter of a mile, you'll see a big gate. Go through this gate, just make sure you close it behind you. Stay on this 2-track road for about 2.5 miles and you will eventually come to a wide spot in the road, and this is where you want to park. You will see another locked gate, and this is as far as you can go. The trailhead is to your right as you are looking at the gate. It is not really marked as a trail, it just has a sign with some closure dates on it. Muddy Creek Falls is a great day hike on the Rocky Mountain front. If you have any questions about this hike, feel free to leave me a comment. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing.